The sky above the Volari homeworld burned orange and red. Smoke rose from what used to be beautiful cities made of crystal and light. Ambassador Tella stood at the window of the underground bunker and watched another explosion light up the horizon. Her thin, pale blue skin trembled. Her large, dark eyes filled with tears she could not shed. The Krath had come 3 weeks ago. They came with warships that blocked out the stars. They came with soldiers in black armor who laughed as they burned everything the Volari had built over 10,000 years. The Volari were not fighters. They were artists. They were poets. They were diplomats who solved problems with words, not weapons. Words did not stop the Krath. "We must do something," Tala said. Her voice was soft, like wind through leaves. "Our people are dying." Elder Mavok sat in his floating chair, his ancient body wrapped in ceremonial robes that now seemed foolish. He was over 400 years old. He had seen the Volari reach the stars, make friends with dozens of species, and build a civilization of peace. Now he watched it all turn to ash. "What would you have us do?" Mavok asked. "We have no weapons, no soldiers. The Galactic Council sends messages of concern, but no ships. There is one species we have not asked," Tella said. Mavok's eyes went wide. "No, they are our only hope. The humans?" Mivek shook his head slowly. "You would invite Deathworlders to our home? You would ask monsters to save us from monsters?" Tella turned from the window. "I have read the reports, Elder. The humans are not what the stories say. They come from a world that would kill any of us in hours," Mivok said. "Their gravity crushes bones. Their air burns lungs. Their planet has predators, diseases, disasters. And yet, they survive. They thrive. What kind of creature survives such a place?" "The kind of creature that might save us," Tala said. Another explosion shook the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere above them, more Volari screamed as the Krath soldiers dragged them from their homes. Mivok closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something in him had broken. "Send the signal," he whispered. "May the stars forgive us for what we invite." Tella moved quickly to the communication array. Her thin fingers danced across the controls. The message was simple. "We are the Volari. We are dying. Please help us, Dodd." She sent it to Earth. Far across the galaxy. The message reached a place called Stellar Defense Command. It was a building of gray metal and purpose, filled with men and women who had dedicated their lives to protecting others. The message appeared on a screen in front of a young officer who read it twice. Before running to his commander, Captain Yoon Daeho was in the training room when the officer found him. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a calm face. His black hair was cut short in military style. His eyes were dark and steady, the kind of eyes that had seen terrible things and kept looking anyway. "Sir, we have received a distress call from the Volari system," the officer said. "The Krath Dominion has invaded. They are requesting immediate assistance." Daeho stopped his exercise and grabbed a towel. "The Volari? They are the peaceful ones, yes? Artists and such?" "Yes, sir. They have no military capability. And the Krath? Aggressive expansion species. Large fleet. History of slave-taking and resource extraction." Daeho nodded slowly. He thought of the Volari he had once met at a diplomatic function. Small, gentle creatures with voices like music. They had given him a gift, a small crystal that played a song when you held it. He still had it on his desk. "Prepare the Iron Tide," he said. "I want full crew and combat readiness in 6 hours." "Sir, the Krath have at least 40 warships in that system." "I heard you, Lieutenant. We would be 1 ship against 40. Daeho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had made peace with impossible odds long ago. "Then we better make sure we count for 40. 6 hours later, the Iron Tide jumped to hyperspace. It was a human warship, built thick and heavy, designed to take punishment and keep fighting. The crew was 63 men and women who had all volunteered for this mission. They knew the odds. They came anyway. Lieutenant Park Subin stood at the tactical station. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and faster hands. She had been born in a fishing village on the Korean coast and had grown up watching storms come in from the sea. She had learned that the worst storms were the quiet ones, the ones that seemed calm until they were right on top of you. Entering Valari space in 3 minutes, she announced. Deho stood at the center of the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to enter a combat zone. The Valari people called for help, and we answered. The Krath have 40 ships. We have 1. But we are human. Our ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They crawled out of caves and reached the stars. We do not know how to quit. We do not know how to abandon those who need us. Today, we show the galaxy what that means. The Iron Tide dropped out of hyperspace above a burning world. Ambassador Tella was waiting at the landing zone when the human shuttle touched down. She had never seen humans in person before. The pictures did not prepare her for the reality. They were tall, solid, dense with muscle in a way that seemed almost unnatural. Their eyes faced forward like predators, always watching, always calculating. When Captain Yoon Dae-ho stepped off the shuttle, Tella felt something ancient wake up inside her brain. It was fear. Pure, deep, prey animal fear. But then he smiled. It changed his whole face, made him look almost gentle. Ambassador Tella, he said. His voice was deep but kind. I am Captain Yoon Dae-ho of the Earth vessel Iron Tide. We received your call for help. You came, Tella whispered. You actually came. Of course we came. That is what we do. Tella looked at the other humans spreading out around the landing zone. They moved with quiet efficiency, setting up equipment, scanning the area, always watching the sky. You are only 1 ship, she said. The Krath have 40. I am aware, Dae-ho said. Then how can you help us? Before Dae-ho could answer, the communication device on his wrist made a sound. He listened for a moment, then looked up at the smoke-filled sky. The Krath flagship is hailing us. They are telling us to leave or be destroyed. What will you do? Tella asked. Dae-ho looked at her, and something in his eyes made her understand why humans survived their death world. It was not just strength. It was will. Absolute, unbreakable will. Tell your people to stay underground for now, he said. Things are about to get loud. He turned to his communication officer. Tell the Krath that we are not leaving. Tell them that the Valari are under human protection now. And tell them that if they fire 1 more shot at this world, we will teach them why Earth breeds survivors. Tella watched him walk back toward the shuttle. She had called for help expecting warriors. What she got was something else. Something she did not have a word for yet. She wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. Or if she had just witnessed the beginning of something that would change the galaxy forever. Above them, the Krath flagship began to move. The real test was about to begin. Warlord Krathven stood on the bridge of the Devourer and laughed. It was an ugly sound, like metal scraping against stone. His gray-scaled skin pulled tight over his skull as his mouth opened wide to show rows of sharp teeth. 1 ship, he said. They sent 1 ship. The bridge crew laughed with him. They were all Krath, all warriors bred for conquest. Their homeworld had been harsh, and they had survived by taking what they needed from others. It was their way. The strong took. The weak died. Warlord, Sub-Commander Hiss said carefully. He was smaller than the others, but his eyes were clever. He had spent years studying other species, learning their strengths and weaknesses. I must advise caution. Caution! Krathven turned to face him. Against one ship? Against humans. The laughter on the bridge stopped. Even the word felt dangerous somehow. I have read the intelligence reports, Hiss continued. The humans are classified as Deathworlders. Their planet has a gravity that would break Valari bones in minutes. Their atmosphere contains a gas that corrodes most metals. They share their world with millions of predator species. They have survived extinction events that would have ended any other civilization. So they are tough, Krathven said. We are Krath. We have conquered dozens of worlds. None of those worlds had humans on them. Hiss pulled up a display on his screen. Look at their biology. Their muscles are 5 times denser than ours. Their bones can take impacts that would shatter our skulls. They heal from wounds that would kill us. And their endurance, he shook his head. They can chase prey for days without stopping. Their ancestors hunted by simply following animals until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. Krathven walked closer to Hiss. He towered over the smaller Krath, using his size to intimidate. Are you afraid, Sub-Commander? I am practical, Warlord. These humans have only been in space for 200 years. In that time, they have never lost a war. Every species that has attacked them has regretted it. Perhaps those species were weak. The Thorax Collective was not weak. They had 1,000 ships. They attacked a human colony world and killed 10,000 civilians. Hiss paused. The humans hunted them for 3 years. They did not stop until every Thorax ship was destroyed. Every colony burned. The Thorax are extinct now. Krathven was silent for a moment. Then he smiled again. Good. Finally, a worthy enemy. We grow soft fighting weaklings like the Valari. These humans will give us a real battle. Warlord, I strongly recommend we negotiate. Let them have the Valari. There are other worlds with resources. We do not need to fight this battle. Krathven grabbed Hiss by the throat and lifted him off the ground. I do not retreat from prey animals. I do not negotiate with inferior species. And I do not take advice from cowards. He threw Hiss across the bridge. The next words out of your mouth will be orders to attack, or they will be your last words. Understood? Hiss got up slowly, clutching his bruised throat. Yes, Warlord. On the Iron Tide, Lieutenant Park Subin watched her sensors with focused eyes. The Krath fleet was moving into attack formation. 40 warships, each one bristling with weapons, each one carrying hundreds of soldiers, eager for blood. They are not listening to our warning, she said. Captain Yoon Dae-ho nodded slowly. He had expected this. Species like the Krath only understood one thing: force. They would not believe humans were dangerous until they were shown. How long until they are in weapons range? He asked. 7 minutes. And their fighters? Launching now. 200 small craft, heading our way. Dae-ho walked to the main screen and studied the approaching swarm of fighters. Each one was fast and deadly. Together, they were supposed to overwhelm enemy ships, hit them from all angles at once. Lieutenant Park, he said calmly. Show them why that was a mistake. Subin smiled. It was a cold smile, the smile of someone who was very good at her job. Her fingers moved across the controls with the precision of a musician playing an instrument she had mastered long ago. Activating point defense systems. Targeting solutions calculated. Firing. The Iron Tide lit up like a star. Dozens of guns fired at once, each one controlled by computers that could track hundreds of targets simultaneously. The humans had learned long ago that war was not about courage alone. It was about preparation, about technology, about making every shot count. The Krath fighters began to explode. One after another, then 10 at a time, then 20. They had no chance to fight back. They were dead before they even knew they were in danger. In 7 minutes, it was over. 200 fighters, reduced to floating debris. On the Devourer, Warlord Krathven stared at the screen in disbelief. What? What just happened? They killed them all, Hiss said quietly. Every single fighter. In 7 minutes, the bridge was silent. For the first time, doubt crept into the eyes of the Krath warriors. They had seen battles before. They had seen defeats before. But they had never seen anything like this. It changes nothing, Krathven growled. Fighters are expendable. We have 40 warships. They have 1. We will crush them with numbers. Warlord, perhaps we should reconsider. All ships attack. Krathven screamed. Full assault formation. Destroy that human vessel. I want its crew brought to me alive so I can kill them slowly. The Krath fleet surged forward. 40 warships, weapons charging, hungry for blood. Captain Deho watched them come. His face showed no fear. His hands were steady. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. They had trained for moments like this. They had prepared their whole lives for the chance to protect the innocent. All hands, Deho said, his voice steady. This is the captain. The Krath have chosen violence. They had the chance to walk away. They did not take it. Now they will learn what it means to threaten a world under human protection. He turned to Subin. Target their weapon systems first. I want them helpless before they know what hit them. Understood, Captain. Helm, evasive pattern Delta. Keep us moving. They cannot hit what they cannot predict. Yes, sir. Deho looked at the screen one more time. 40 ships. Thousands of enemies. All coming to destroy them. He smiled. Show them why our species survived. The ion tide began to move. It danced between enemy fire like it was nothing. Human pilots had reflexes that other species could not match. Human engineers had built engines that could turn on a moment's notice. Human gunners had been trained to hit targets that seemed impossible. The first crash ship lost its main guns in seconds. The second lost its engines. The third exploded completely when a lucky shot hit its power core. On the surface of the Valari homeworld, Ambassador Tella watched the battle through a telescope. She saw the lights in the sky, the explosions, the chaos. She had expected the human ship to die quickly. Instead, it was tearing through the Krath fleet like a predator through a herd of prey. What are they? Elder Mivok whispered beside her. Tella did not have an answer. She only knew that the galaxy had just changed. The humans had announced their presence to the universe, and the universe would never be the same. The dropship fell through the burning sky like a stone. Inside, Sergeant Beek Ji-Yan checked her weapon one more time and looked at the soldiers around her. They were young, most of them. First deployment for half the squad. But they were human, and humans did not break easily. Listen up, she said, her voice cutting through the noise of the descent. The Krath have occupied 3 major cities. They have taken Valari prisoners. They are using them as shields and slaves. Our job is simple. We go in, we kill every Krath soldier we find, and we bring those prisoners home. Private O. Taman swallowed hard. He was 22 years old, fresh from training, and this was his first real combat job. His hands were shaking, but he tried to hide it. What if there are too many of them, Sergeant? He asked G-YEO and looked at him with eyes that had seen a dozen battlefields. A scar ran down the left side of her face, a souvenir from a fight she had won against impossible odds. There is no such thing as too many, Private. There is only what needs to be done and how we do it. The dropship hit the ground hard. The doors opened, and the humans poured out into a city of crystal and fire. The Valari had built beautiful things. Towers that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. Streets paved with stones that sang when you walked on them. Gardens that floated in the air on currents of gentle energy. The Krath had destroyed most of it. Broken towers lay scattered like fallen trees. The singing stones were cracked and silent. The gardens burned. "Move out," Ji-Yan ordered. Delta formation. Eyes open. The squad moved through the ruined streets with practiced efficiency. They had trained for urban combat on 100 different worlds. They knew how to use cover, how to communicate, how to kill. It was what humans were good at, a skill learned from thousands of years of fighting each other before they finally reached the stars. The first Krath patrol did not see them coming. Ji-Yan gave the signal, and 6 soldiers dropped without making a sound. Clean, quick, professional. "Too easy," muttered Medic Choi Yuna. She was a small woman with gentle hands and steady nerves. Her job was to keep people alive, but she carried a weapon like everyone else. On human ships, everyone was a soldier first. "It will get harder," Ji-Yan said. "Keep moving." They found the first Valari survivors in a collapsed building. A group of children, huddled together in the dark, too scared to even cry. Their caretaker lay dead nearby, her body broken by Krath weapons. Yuna knelt down in front of the children. She made her voice soft, gentle, even though her heart was burning with rage. "It is okay," she said. "We are here to help. We are going to take you somewhere safe." The children stared at her with huge, terrified eyes. They had never seen a human before. To them, she probably looked like another monster, but then Yuna smiled. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small candy, something sweet she had brought from home. She offered it to the nearest child. Slowly, carefully, the child took it, tasted it, and for the first time in days, smiled. "See?" Yuna said. "We are friends." Ambassador Tella had followed the human squad from a distance. She was supposed to stay in the bunker, but she needed to see this for herself. She needed to understand what kind of creatures had come to save her people. She watched the human medic comfort the children. She watched the soldiers form a protective circle around them, weapons pointed outward, ready to die for innocents they had never met. This was not what she had expected from Deathworlders. The Krath counterattack came 20 minutes later. A full company of soldiers, 50 strong, pouring out of a fortified building with weapons blazing. Private Tae-min froze. The sound of the guns, the flash of the plasma bolts, the screams of the dying. It was too much. His brain locked up and his body refused to move. A bolt flew past his head, close enough to singe his hair. He was going to die here. He knew it. He was going to die because he was too scared to move. Then Yuna was there, grabbing him by the arm, pulling him behind a fallen pillar. "Breathe," she said. "Look at me. Breathe." "I cannot," Taemin gasped. "Yes, you can. You are human. Your ancestors faced down tigers with nothing but sticks and survived. You can do this." She put her hand on his chest. "Feel your heart? It is still beating. You are still alive. That means you can still fight." Something in her words cut through the fear. Taemin looked into her eyes and saw no judgment there. Only understanding. Only belief. He nodded, picked up his weapon, and started fighting. Sergeant Ji-Yan was in the center of the battle, moving like a force of nature. A plasma bolt hit her shoulder, burning through her armor and into the flesh beneath. She grunted in pain, looked at the wound, and kept fighting. The Krath soldiers stared in disbelief. That shot should have killed her. At the very least, it should have dropped her. Instead, she raised her weapon with her arm and put 3 rounds into the soldier who had shot her. "Is that all you have?" she shouted. "My grandmother hit harder than that." The Krath were not prepared for this. They were used to fighting species that ran from pain, that surrendered when wounded. that valued their own lives above all else. Humans were different. Humans kept fighting when they should have been dead. Humans smiled through broken bones and laughed at wounds that would kill other creatures dead. It was terrifying. One by one, the craft soldiers fell. Some tried to run. Ji-Yan did not let them. She hunted them down through the ruined streets, driven by a cold fury that had been building since she saw the dead caretaker and the frightened children. When it was over, Taemin stood among the bodies and tried to process what had just happened. He had been frozen with fear, and then he had killed 6 enemies without thinking. His hands were still shaking, but now it was not from fear. It was from something else, something powerful. "Good work, Private," Ji-Yan said, clapping him on the shoulder. "You did not break." "I almost did," Taemin admitted. "Almost does not count. You are still standing. That is all that matters." Yuna was already moving among the wounded, human and Valari alike. She treated everyone with the same care, the same gentle efficiency. To her, there were no aliens. There were only patients. Ambassador Tella emerged from her hiding place. She walked through the battlefield, stepping over craft bodies, and stopped in front of Ji-Yan. "You were wounded," she said. Pointing to the sergeant's shoulder, Ji-Yan shrugged, then winced at the motion. "It will heal. That wound would have killed any Valari. Probably. But we are not Valari." Ji-Yan looked at the ambassador with eyes that held both steel and sorrow. "We are human. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We survived ice and fire and flood. We survived predators and plagues and each other. Pain is just part of living." She looked down at the dead craft soldiers. "But that does not mean we enjoy killing. We do it because sometimes it is the only way to protect the ones who cannot protect themselves." Tella was silent for a long moment. Then she asked the question that had been burning in her mind since the humans arrived. "Why? Why you fight for us? We have nothing to give you. We cannot pay you back." Ji-Yun smiled. It was a sad smile, tired but real. "Because someone has to. Because if we do not stand up for the weak, then what is the point of being strong?" A message came through Ji-Yan's communicator. She listened, and her face went cold. "Understood. We are on our way. What is it?" Tella asked. "We found a craft death camp. They have been processing Valari prisoners for slave labor." Ji-Yan's voice was flat, controlled, but something dangerous burned beneath the surface. "I am requesting Protocol 7. What is Protocol 7? Ji-Yan did not answer. She just started walking toward the coordinates. Her squad falling in behind her. Ambassador Tella followed. And she began to understand that the humans had not shown her everything yet. The real destruction was about to begin. Protocol 7 was humanity's darkest answer to the darkest deeds. It was written into military law after the Thorax massacre, after humans had learned that some species in the galaxy did terrible things to innocents. The protocol was simple. When atrocities were confirmed, there would be no more warnings, no more negotiations, no more mercy. Only complete military destruction. Captain Yunde-ho received the request from Sergeant Ji-Yan and closed his eyes for a moment. He knew what she had found. He knew what the craft were doing to the Valari prisoners. And he knew what Protocol 7 meant. "Show me the images," he said quietly. Lieutenant Park Subin hesitated. "Captain, are you sure?" "They are difficult. Show me." The images appeared on screen. Daeho forced himself to look at every single one. The Valari packed into cages too small for them. The bodies of those who had died from abuse. The processing stations where living beings were sorted like cargo. The terror in the eyes of children who had seen things no child should ever see. Daeho's hands curled into fists. His jaw tightened. but his voice was steady when he spoke. Protocol 7 is authorized. Inform all units. On the Devourer, Warlord Krathven was trying to understand what had happened to his fleet. 12 ships destroyed. 8 more damaged beyond combat capability. His fighters were gone. His ground forces were being pushed back on every front. 1 human ship had done this. "We must retreat," Sub-Commander Hiss said. He was trying to be calm, but fear had crept into his voice. "Regroup. Find reinforcements. We cannot win this fight. Retreat?" Krathven turned on him. "Retreat from 1 ship? That 1 ship has killed more Krath in 1 day than any enemy in our history. The humans are not fighting like we expected. They are fighting like predators. They are hunting us. We are Krath. We do not run. Then we will die." Hiss stepped closer, lowering his voice so the bridge crew could not hear. "Warlord, listen to me. I have studied these humans. They do not stop. They do not tire. They do not forgive. Whatever we did to the Volari in those camps, the humans know about it now. And they will make us pay for every single atrocity." Krathven hesitated. For the first time in his life, he felt something unfamiliar: doubt. He had built his reputation on strength, on never backing down. But what good was reputation if he was dead? Before he could decide, an alarm sounded. 3 more contacts dropping out of hyperspace. A bridge officer shouted, "Human warships. They are taking attack formation." On the main screen, 3 new ships appeared beside the Iron Tide. Human reinforcements. Fresh weapons. Fresh crews. All of them ready to fight. Hiss made his move. He had been planning this since the first human ship arrived. In one quick motion, he drew his sidearm and pointed it at Krathven. "Warlord, for the survival of our fleet, I am relieving you of command. We are surrendering to the humans." Krathven stared at him with pure hatred. "You would betray your own kind? I would save them." For a moment, the bridge was frozen. Then Krathven moved. He was faster than Hiss expected, faster than anyone should be with age wearing on their body. He grabbed the gun, twisted it aside, and fired. Hiss fell to the deck with a hole in his chest. Dead before he hit the ground, Kra Tven stood over the body and looked at his bridge crew. "Anyone else want to surrender?" Silence. "Good. All ships, continue the attack. We fight to the death." Captain Deho watched the Krath fleet try to reform. They were broken, desperate, but still dangerous. A cornered enemy was always the most deadly. "Sir," Subin said, "the Krath flagship is refusing to surrender. They are ordering their remaining ships to continue fighting. Then we finish this." Deho looked at the tactical display. "All ships, focus fire on the Devourer. Target their shield generators first, then their engines. I want that ship dead in space." The 4 human warships moved like a pack of wolves. They had trained together, fought together, learned to coordinate their attacks with perfect precision. The Krath had numbers, but humans had something better. Teamwork built on thousands of years of learning to work together against impossible odds. The Devourer's shields flickered and died under concentrated fire. Its engines went dark moments later. The massive warship drifted helplessly in the void, surrounded by the wreckage of its fleet. "Open a channel to the Krath flagship," Deho ordered. The screen flickered, and Warlord Krathven appeared. He was wounded, bleeding from a cut on his head, but his eyes still burned with defiance. "This is Captain Yundeho of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your fleet is destroyed. Your ship is crippled. You have one chance to save your crew. Surrender and face trial for your crimes against the Volari people." Krathven laughed. It was a broken sound, more cough than laughter. "You think I fear your trials? You think I fear death? I am Krath. I was born to conquer. I will die as I lived, taking my enemies with me. You are not taking anyone with you. Your weapons are offline. Your engines are dead. You are finished. Then so are my prisoners. Krathven smiled, a terrible smile. I have 300 Valari hostages on this ship. If I die, they die with me. Your choice, human. Let me go, or watch innocents burn. On the surface of the Valari homeworld, Sergeant Jiyeon was fighting her way through the death camp. Her squad had been joined by reinforcements, and together they were tearing through the Krath guards with merciless efficiency. Every cage they opened revealed more horrors. Valari who had been starved. Valari who had been beaten. Valari who had given up hope entirely until they saw human faces looking down at them with gentle eyes. It is okay, Yuna said to each one, over and over. You are safe now. We have you. Private Taemin had stopped shaking. The fear was still there, somewhere deep inside, but it had been replaced by something stronger. Purpose. Every time he saw a frightened Valari child, he thought of his own younger sister back on Earth. He would have burned down the universe to protect her. These children deserved the same protection. They found the main holding area at the center of the camp. 200 Valari, packed together, guarded by 50 Krath soldiers who knew they were going to die. G-YEON gave the signal to hold. She stepped forward, alone, weapon lowered. You have a choice, she called out. Drop your weapons and step away from the prisoners. Do that, and you live. Do not, and you die. Simple. The Krath commander laughed. Why would we surrender? You will kill us anyway. No, we will take you prisoner. You will face trial for your crimes. That is how humans do things. Justice, not revenge. Justice? The commander spat. You have already killed thousands of us. What justice is that? Your fleet attacked a peaceful world. Your soldiers murdered innocents. Your camps tortured prisoners. Ji Yin's voice was cold. We gave you the chance to leave. You did not take it. Everything that has happened since is a consequence of your choices. She raised her weapon. This is your last chance. Surrender now. The Krath commander looked at his soldiers. He looked at the humans surrounding them. And he made a decision. He grabbed the nearest Valari prisoner and put a gun to their head. Come any closer and I kill them all. Ji-yeon did not hesitate. Her shot took him between the eyes before he could finish speaking. The other Krath soldiers froze. They had seen what humans could do. They knew they had no chance. One by one, they dropped their weapons. In orbit. Captain Daeho faced his own impossible choice. 300 hostages. A madman willing to kill them all. Tactical analysis, he said quietly. Su-bin studied her screens. The Devourer still has internal power. If they trigger self-destruct, the hostages die. But their shields are down. We could beam a team aboard. How long to get a team in position? 8 minutes. That is too long. He will kill them before we get there. Daeho closed his eyes. Think. There had to be a way. There was always a way. The ship's life support system, he said suddenly. Can't we target it without hitting the areas where the hostages are held? Subin's eyes widened. Yes, if we are precise enough. But if we miss, we will not miss. Target the life support systems in the command sections only. Force them to evacuate toward the hostage area. Then we board. It was a gamble. Everything depended on precision, on timing, on the human ability to do the impossible when innocent lives were at stake. Daeho gave the order. The Iron Tide fired on the Devourer. Alarms blared as atmosphere began venting from the command deck. Krathven screamed orders at his crew, but it was too late. They had to move or die. And when they moved, human soldiers were waiting for them. The boarding team hit the ship like a hammer. They fought through the corridors with brutal efficiency, pushing the craft back, away from the hostages, away from any chance of carrying out their threat. Krathvan died on the bridge of his ship, still fighting, still refusing to surrender. In the end, his pride killed him just as Hiss had predicted. When it was over, 300 Valari hostages were brought safely aboard human ships. They were crying, shaking, unable to believe they were alive. Captain Deho watched them being carried to the medical bay. These were the ones they had saved. He tried not to think about the ones they had not. The battle was over. The Krath were finished, but the cost had been high, and the memories would last forever. The fires had stopped burning. The smoke was clearing from the Valari sky, revealing stars that had not been seen in weeks. The Krath fleet was gone, scattered or destroyed, and the sounds of battle had been replaced by something the Valari had almost forgotten. Silenced. Captain Yoon Daeho stood on a balcony overlooking what remained of the capital city. Much of it was ruins now, broken crystal and shattered dreams. But already, the Valari were beginning to rebuild. They were stronger than they looked, these gentle people. They had survived the worst their galaxy could throw at them, and they were still standing. "You saved us," Ambassador Tella said, joining him on the balcony. "I do not know how to thank you." Daho shook his head. "You do not need to thank us. This is what we do." "But why?" Tella asked. It was the same question she had been asking since the humans arrived, and she still did not fully understand the answer. "You lost soldiers. You spent resources. You made enemies. All for a species you barely knew." Daho was quiet for a long moment. He watched a group of human engineers working alongside Valari builders to clear rubble from a collapsed tower. They were laughing together, sharing tools, teaching each other words in their different languages. "On Earth," he said finally, "we have a saying. We are all in this together." It sounds simple, but it took us a very long time to learn what it really means. What does it mean? It means that strength is not about what you can take. It is about what you can protect. It means that the measure of a species is not how high they can climb, but how many they can lift up with them. He turned to face her. The Valari called for help. If we had ignored that call, what kind of people would we be? Tella thought about that. She thought about everything she had seen, the violence and the gentleness, the destruction and the compassion. The humans were a contradiction she could not fully understand. They were capable of terrible things, but they chose, every day, to be something better. The ceremony to honor the fallen was held 3 days later. Elder Mivok presided over it, his ancient voice steady despite his grief. Humans and Valari stood together in the central plaza, surrounded by the ruins of the city they had fought to save. "We gather today to remember those we have lost," Mivok said. "Valari and human alike. They died together, fighting for a future they would not see. We owe them everything." Sergeant Beek Ji-Yen stood in the front row, her arm in a sling from her shoulder wound. She had refused to leave until the last Krath soldier was gone. Now she stood at attention, her eyes fixed straight ahead, her face showing nothing. But inside, she was remembering. Remembering the Valari elder who had died in her arms in the death camp. Remembering the children she had saved and the ones she had not been able to reach in time. Remembering the faces of her own soldiers who would not be going home. After the ceremony, she walked to a quiet corner of the plaza where a temporary memorial had been set up. Human flags and Valari crystals side by side. Names written in both languages. A place for the living to remember the dead. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small flower, pressed flat and dry. She had kept it in her journal for years, a reminder of home, of the garden her mother had tended back on Earth. She placed it among the other offerings and stood there in silence. "What is that?" A soft voice asked. G-Y Eon turned to find Ambassador Tella watching her. A flower. From my world. We place them on graves to honor the dead. It is beautiful. My mother grew them. She said they were a reminder that life keeps going, even after the worst storms. Ji-Yeon blinked back tears she refused to let fall. I thought the Valari who died deserved something from Earth, something to show that we will remember them. Tella moved to stand beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just stood together, two beings from different worlds, sharing a grief that needed no translation. In the makeshift hospital that had been set up in a surviving building, Medic Choi Yuna worked without rest. She had been on her feet for days, treating wounds, comforting the frightened, teaching Valari healers human medical techniques. A Valari nurse approached her. "You should rest. You have done enough." Yuna smiled and shook her head. "There is always more to do." She looked around the room at all of the patients, human and Valari alike. "But we will get through it. We always do. How do you stay so calm?" The nurse asked. "After everything you have seen?" "I do not know if I am calm," Yuna admitted. "I am just focused. When I was young, my grandmother told me that the purpose of life is to help others. That's simple. Nothing fancy about it. Just help where you can, and trust that others will do the same." She finished bandaging a Valari child's arm and gave him a gentle smile. "There you go. All better. Would you like a candy?" The child's eyes lit up. He had been through horrors that would scar him for life, but in that moment, he was just a kid getting a treat from a kind stranger. That was what victory looked like, Yuna thought. Not the battles won or the enemies defeated. Just small moments of kindness in a universe that could be very dark. The Galactic Council held an emergency session to discuss what had happened in Valari space. Representatives from 100 different species gathered to argue about what it all meant. "The humans are dangerous," one delegate insisted. "They destroyed an entire fleet in days. What is to stop them from doing the same to us?" "The Krath invaded a peaceful world," another replied. "The humans stopped them. Is that not what we should want? But at what cost? The humans do not follow our rules. They do not wait for council approval. They act on their own. Perhaps that is a good thing." The council talked while the Valari burned. The humans actually did something. Captain Deho was invited to speak before the council. He stood at the podium, facing hundreds of alien faces, and spoke plainly. "Humanity does not seek war," he said. "We do not want to conquer anyone. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live in peace with our neighbors." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But here is the truth that some of you do not want to hear. When the innocent cry for help, humans will answer. When the helpless are threatened, humans will protect them. When evil thinks it can do as it pleases, because no one will stop it, humans will prove it wrong." He looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as he could. "We are Deathworlders. We come from a planet that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. And we survived. Not because we were stronger or smarter than everything else, but because we learned to stand together, to protect each other, to never give up no matter how bad things got. That is who we are. That is what we offer the galaxy. Not conquest, not control, just a promise. You will never stand alone if you call for help." The chamber was silent when he finished. Some faces showed fear. Others showed hope. But all of them showed understanding that the humans were here to stay. On the Valari homeworld, the Iron Tide prepared to depart. But it left behind more than memories. Human engineers would stay to help rebuild. Human doctors would stay to heal the wounded. A defense satellite network would protect against future attacks. Ambassador Tella watched the ship rise into the sky and disappear among the stars. Elder Mivok stood beside her, looking older and younger at the same time. "I was wrong about them," Mivok said quietly. "I thought they were monsters. What do you think now?" Mivok considered the question for a long time. "I think they are exactly what they need to be. Strong enough to destroy, wise enough to protect, human enough to care." Tella nodded. She would be writing a report for the Galactic Archives, a record of what had happened here. She already knew how it would begin. She returned to her quarters and activated the recording system. Her voice was steady as she spoke. "We called them Deathworlders. We expected monsters. What came instead were guardians with scarred hands and gentle hearts. They brought destruction, yes, but only to those who deserved it." She paused, thinking of Ji Yeon placing a flower on the memorial, of Yuna giving candy to a frightened child, of Daeho promising protection to a species he had no obligation to save. And to us, they brought hope. She ended the recording and looked out her window at the clearing sky. The stars were visible again, bright points of light in the endless dark. Somewhere out there, the humans were flying home. But Tella knew they would come back if they were needed. That was what humans did. That was who they were. And for the first time in weeks, she smiled.